Right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the OpenStack Manila PTG. So today is the second day of open topics discussion. We'll cover a couple of important topics today. All of the recordings are already available in the OpenStack Manila YouTube channel. If you missed something, please check it out. And yeah, today we have a couple of topics: QoS enhancements. We'll talk about the Eventlet removal. Also, dropping the V1 API in Manila, the JSON schema validation that we have been working on for a couple of cycles, and Manila client removal and the possibility of merging the OSC functionality, the Manila client OSC functionality to OSC itself. So, yeah, without further ado, I believe we can get started with the very first topic of the day, which is QoS enhancements. So, Kiran, floor is yours.
Thank you. Mm, What should I use for the discussion? The Etherpad? Okay.
Yeah, it's fine. If you'd like to do the screen sharing, you can as well. Otherwise, I can do it for you.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, you can continue with the screen sharing. We won't be having.
Okay.
So, at the higher level, what we have to achieve is basically have the multiple QoS, or basically have some QoS associated with a share, the quality of service for a particular share. So so how it works with the NetApp is that for share server, you can create various adaptive QoS policies, and then you can apply any QoS policy that are created on the share server. You can apply any policy to the share. So considering this is how things work at the back end, what decided is to have this QoS type associated with a share type. So even today, we have the QoS type associated with a share type, that is a fixed QoS type. And in order to have that fixed QoS type, we have to specify all the parameters that are needed for that fixed QoS type. So if you have to do with the adaptive QoS type, we also need to do similar, that whatever the parameter like peak IOPS, expected IOPS, and other parameters that we have that are needed to create adaptive QoS policy, we can have that in share type. But this creates some limitation that you can have only one adaptive QoS policy with a share type, and if you have to overcome that limitation, we have to have the same adaptive QoS policy defined multiple times in a share type extra specs. So for example, adaptive QoS policy underscore one underscore peak IOPS, adaptive QoS policy underscore two underscore peak IOPS, then policy underscore one underscore expected IOPS, and etc. etc. So to overcome all these things, I come up with this approach where we create new data type, new DB object, which is called as a QoS type. And this QoS type will have the things that are needed to represent the adaptive QoS policy. So it can contain 4 or 5 fields specified as a key value items. For example, the adaptive QoS policy name, peak IOPS, expected IOPS, and etc. And one QoS type will represent the one adaptive QoS policy on the backend. So what admin can do is basically he can create QoS policies, delete list, and update whatever the operation that we perform on the resources as of today. In addition, there will be two new APIs, which is called as QoS policy associate share type with a QoS type, and disassociated share type with a QoS type. So share type can have multiple QoS type associated with it. So share type can have QoS type 1, QoS type 2, QoS type 3, uh, and a particular QoS type can also be linked with multiple shares. So share 1 and share 2 both can have association with a QoS type 1, etc., etc. And while designing this API, I thought of adding some restriction as if like the admin will create a share type, then he will create a QoS type, and then he will associate those QoS type with a share type. So all this operation basically nothing but storing the data into the DB because we are not doing anything on the backend as of yet. So when end user will create a share from the particular share type, what we do is we pass these QoS types associated with that share type to the backend driver, and then the backend driver will create adaptive QoS policies. So if it's a first share, the backend driver will create a share server, and it will also create those adaptive QoS policies on the share server. And whatever the QoS policy is being specified as a part of share create API request, that particular policy will be applied on that share. So that is the basic logic behind this. That we want to have the QoS defined on the share, but we also want to keep this within the limit. For example, if a share server can have, let's say, 30 shares, we don't want end user to have the 30 adaptive QoS policies that will be created on the share server and applied to individual shares differently. But we want to have some limit like 3 or 4 adaptive QoS policies that will be created on the share server, and the share can choose any one of them, or it cannot have policy at all, something like this. So this spec is being designed to fix this, to basically add the support of this feature, like supporting the adaptive QoS policies. Uh, the blueprint that I have created, I have also raised a spec, uh, which we have kind of discussed with the NetApp and went through various questions. Does anyone have any question up to what I have discussed so far? Uh, yes.
Yeah, so there is when you were talking about the possibility of having multiple QoS packs for being added to the share type, how have you planned to handle conflicting QoS specs? Because let's suppose we have one one QoS type associated to the share type, and then you are planning to add another because both like you would be able to do multiple. um, what would be the strategy from handling, like, oh, something already set max IOPS, and then there is another QoS type that also sets max IOPS. Both of them are kind of like defining different values.
Mhm.
What would be done in that case?
No, no. If both are defining the different values, that means we have two different adaptive QoS policies, and those policies will be created on the share server. A share server can create multiple adaptive QoS policies, and the share can choose any one of it. So the time when I wrote the spec, I had made assumption that the flow would be admin will create a share type, then he will create a QoS types. Let's say he has created some 8 to 10 QoS type, and then he can associate any 2 3 QoS type to the particular share type. So whenever the end user will create a share, we pass this information of share type extra specs the way we pass today, and we also pass these QoS types that are associated with the share type. So whenever we create a share, if there is no share server, we create a new share server. If there is existing share server, which pick that share server. In both cases, we check for the adaptive QoS types or QoS policies that are being specified uh, as a part of share type association, we create those on the share server, and then out of those policies, either one will be applied on the share if it is being provided as a part of share create API. If it's not provided, then just the policies will be created on the share server. So that was my assumption initially. But after conducting some experiments with the NetApp, we realized that it is possible that you can add another QoS policies. Uh, Once the share server is being created and having some QoS policies, you can also add additional QoS policies without any issues. So this thing where I have blocked the association. I mean, once the share is being created from the share type, you cannot modify the QoS type associated with the share type. Is something I had assumed previously. Uh, but the way the backend supports, probably we need to allow that modification. The only thing is that all these modification are nothing but the changes into the DB, and those will take effect only during the share creation or the share server creation.
Yeah, got it. So the you mentioned that the share is possibly going to decide which share or which extra spec is going to be applied, right? Even though
Right, which
it's
QoS
multiple.
policy.
Yeah, exactly. Which QoS policy is going to be applied? But
Right.
how like what will be the determining factor to decide which QoS policies is the best one, the most suitable for the share? Because that's something that is not very clear to me at the moment, right? Like you can have
So
multiple, but it's if the administrator didn't define exactly what is the QoS policy that should be applied to
right,
something, or we don't have
right,
an intervention, then we would be assuming something with the driver or Manila. So that's what's
right.
in my mind right now. I'm not sure if there is something that I'm missing, but yeah, that's
Okay.
my next
So
question.
basically, let's assume you create a three adaptive QoS policy like silver, gold, and platinum, right? And you assign those policies with the share type. So at the creation of a share, end user can specify that adaptive QoS policy as an option. Uh, we are going to add this additional optional parameter, and he can specify that gold, or he can specify the UID of that QoS type. So in the API layer, we check whether the specified policy that end user has specified is associated with the share type. If it's not, then we raise the error there itself. If it is being specified, we go to the backend and we check whether that policy is being already created. If it's created, we apply to the share. If it's not created, we create on the share server, and then we apply to the share.
Yep, got them. Please go ahead.
Uh, hey, I was just gonna asking. Actually, let's bear back a little bit. Um,
Mhm.
what is the need for having QoS types? And I do see your your initial explanation about how you want it to be. There could be 20, 10, 20, 30 policies that you would want to create, and so that's why it's a separate resource. But when you end up associating it with a share type, you're only ever going to associate one QoS type to a share type, right?
No, no, we are going to associate multiple QoS type to the share type. For
Okay,
example, a share type A can have QoS type 1, 2, 3, or QoS type silver, gold, platinum.
okay.
So on
And
the back
and so
end,
an end user, when they're trying to create a share, is going to have to tell you which QoS type to use.
right, right, they can specify or they cannot. If they cannot specify, then it's simply not considered. But if they specified, for example, if they specified gold, in the API layer, we check whether the gold QoS policy is associated with the share type. If it's not, we filter out there, raising an exception. If it is, then we pass this information to the backend. If it's the first share, we end up creating the share server, creating the all QoS policies and applying that particular policy on the share. If it is the share server which is already being created, we check whether the asked QoS policy is present there. If it's not, then we create and apply. If it's present, we simply apply to the share.
What happens if you can't create and apply this thing? So is that going to fail the share creation?
Uh, for the experiments that we have carried so far, we haven't seen any failures. We There is some operation that we basically did is you create some adaptive QoS policy, apply to the share server. Sorry, create on the share server and then apply to the share, and then you basically modify that adaptive QoS policy. So in that case, what we observed is that uh, the uh, the API doesn't return error as such, but it says that it will take some time, like 2 minutes or something, to apply the policy. If you check in the same Etherpad at the line number after 300, there are a lot of experiments, and the outcome of those experiments are mentioned. So whether the policy creation will be failed or not is something I'm not sure, because whatever the experiments we have done, the policy creation at least has not uh, failed. So we can decide what we need to do in this case. Either we can, because this is more of like performance thing,
I understand.
QoS.
That's kind of why I'm asking in case of, like, it's not a critical error if
Right,
it were to fail, but
right,
would you roll back the share creation because you actually didn't complete the operation as directed, right? Technically,
right,
because when the user request now contains the QoS that they want. It is not just hidden inside the share type as it previously was. Um, so it is something that Manila would want to guarantee that it's done. Um,
right. So ideally, in that case, if any of the operation with respect to QoS policy, either it's a creation on the SVM or it's a application on the share level, if it fails, we probably need to fail the whole workflow and raise an error. So so basically at the end of the day, what we want to achieve uh, is having some set of adaptive QoS policies, and that we can apply to the share. So it might possible that we have three policies: gold, silver, platinum, and then fourth policy like bronze will be created after the share and SVM is created. So in my previous approach, I was under the assumption that it should not be allowed that once the QoS type is associated with the share type and the share is created from the share type, we will not allow to associate and de-associate any QoS type. But if it's supported by the backend, probably I can allow the association and de-association. The thing is that it will only be applicable if the particular adaptive QoS policy will be chosen by any share create operation after that, after the association.
yeah, because we're not changing. I mean,
Right,
taking share type modifications to the
right,
backends.
right.
Okay, and so if yeah, the problem would be that these QoS types would be another thing that end users would have to know how they work, right? So if they don't specify anything, does that mean that QoS itself is not
that
possible
we
with Sure?
that we have not decided, but that's what I assume, that there will not be any application of the QoS policy. But if we have to go with the logic of having some default value that will be considered, then we can go that way as well. uh, we haven't thought of this corner case.
Yeah. So, sorry, if I understand correctly, you mentioned that the QoS, the desired QoS type is also going to be specified in the share creation request. Is that correct?
No, 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 no. It will be create the share type will be created, then the QoS type will be created. Each QoS type will represent the adaptive QoS policy. Once the share type and QoS type will be created, you create a share. At the creation of share creation time, you can specify the adaptive QoS type, or you can simply skip it. This is the workflow.
So I don't see a reason for the association between the QoS type and the share type then.
because then
Will be applied to the shared server, right? If you have it in the
Yeah.
type,
Sorry, can you
all
repeat?
of them will be applied to the shared server that we create, right? So that is, I think, he
no, I
meant
mean,
it.
see, if you are creating like there has to be some way. So what will happen otherwise uh, is like if there is no association, then each share can specify different QoS type, and that will end up creating a lot of uh, QoS policies on the share server. Theoretically, that's supported, but that's not how we want, right? Because anyways, whatever the QoS that we will be supporting as a part of this feature, we will be charging the customer. So customer who is playing for the platinum will definitely needs to get better service than the someone who is paying for bronze or etc. Right? So we have some specific 3 4 QoS policies. The end user can choose any one of it, and respective policies will be provided for that particular share.
Mm.
I mean, that's what I think. Like, I don't. If you can elaborate why you think that
Yeah,
there is no need
I
of
can.
association.
So my questions are very much similar to what Anoop has asked on the spec, about why these why this extra data structure is required, and because
Uh,
it's not just the aspect of us changing the code to accommodate it, right? Also about the user behavior. So if they were to use QoS today, they don't need to do anything else. But with
right,
this, they would have to have the knowledge of, okay, I need to list my QoS types. I need to figure out which one I want to use out of the share type, and then create it. So I see the reason for association to clarify whether something is possible at all, even before you do it. Um,
right.
and
So
the other
basically,
is, I mean, what happens if I don't do this? It's an oops moment, right? Like I create the share, I begin to use it, and then I realize, oh, I don't have the performance that I thought I would have. But I used the share type, but I didn't specify this QoS type. What happens to me? That would be the other side of that. Um, it's basically I'm looking at it as a new user experience is getting introduced. So is that warranted with?
see if there is no any if there is no QoS type associated with the share type, and if you create a share server from that share type, you anyway is not going to have uh, any support of the feature, right? So even in this case where you have association with the QoS type, but you are not asking any QoS, the reason is because you can have a share server which have some adaptive QoS policies created on it, and you can have a share which can either the policy will be applied or policy will not be applied. So if someone doesn't want that policy, but Manila on the backend has selected that share server for share creation, we should not basically fail the share creation. That is the reason I assume that if end user is not specifying any QoS type, then simply don't apply any QoS type for that share. And also the question that Anup has asked on the spec is basically regarding how uh, we provide all this data to the backend driver. The way I'm suggesting is a bit difficult and complicated to implement, uh, but it looks structured way. What Anup has suggested is that we should specify the adaptive QoS policies as a share type extra spec. So if there are like 2 3 policies, we keep adding those parameters like adaptive QoS policy underscore one, its name, then underscore one, its parameter one underscore one, its parameter two, and this is something is a suggestion that came from Anup. Otherwise, in the structural way, uh, they also have the same use case where we have a couple of, or let's say three, four adaptive QoS policies, and share can choose any one of it. So if you are not okay with having this QoS association, I can go with the way Anup has suggested. But only concern that I have is that the share type extra spec will be like writing an essay then.
Yeah, I get that. So let me look through the spec for my concerns at least. I'll just go ahead and add them on the spec. But thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks for starting this discussion.
Yeah, thank you, Kiran.
Yeah, and this is bit priority for us. So we need to have the decision to be at least in coming weeks. The implementation to the upstream can definitely be before G release is what we are targeting. This feature as well as Snap Mirror, the one that we discussed yesterday. Uh, but we
Right.
have to kind of agree on the approach and APIs beforehand. I mean, at this stage, this is even more priority than the encryption, share server migration, rekey, and etc.
Yeah, thank you for letting us know. Yeah, I'll share some thoughts in the spec as well. I was looking at Anoop's concerns today too, and share a bunch of his comments.
Yeah,
So yeah,
maybe we can think also in the way that QoS type can have some other name, but more generic approach where something that a share type can possibly, for example, in case of NetApp, it's a QoS policy, but for some other driver, it might possible that they want some other feature uh, in the same manner.
yeah, that makes sense. We can brainstorm on the name of that. I would recommend other lab engineers to also take a look at that proposal. Sai, if you have
Because
thoughts as well.
the QoS type is supported in the Cinder. I checked it, but they support only one association.
Yep.
Okay, I think my time is done. So let's have a review as much as possible on the spec, and we can continue discussion there as well.
Awesome. Thank you for bringing this up, Kiran. Do you guys
Yeah,
have any other questions
thank
for
you for
Kiran?
listening.
No, we are good. We went through the spec and all. Yeah. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you for time, guys.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Right. That takes us to the next discussion, which is the Eventlet removal. Gotham, would you like to, yeah, would you like to start on this?
We cannot hear you.
Oh, you can hear
Oh,
me.
thank you.
Oh, Gotham. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, was that Gotham? Was that me? That you said
Yes,
you
it
can
was you. It was you.
Okay, perfect, perfect. All right. I think it was my mic not muting. Let me just get the Etherpad. Sorry, I was on it just now and I've seemed to have lost it.
Just I can also introduce me below. My name is Daniel or Damani on the upstream work, and I work on the eventlet removal, and right now more on the Oslo services work. So I will probably talk a bit about that, but first Gutmar will probably talk a bit.
Yeah, I'll just introduce the topic for us. So we've spoken about this eventlet removal here in this room a little bit. I just created another Etherpad just so that we could take some more specific notes, and I think Carlos is sharing it. Thanks, Carlos. Um, so, and thanks for joining us. Daniel. And all right, first things first. Things that are already done. These were some easy ones. We are concerned about three deliverables, and most of the time, and there are two of those that we don't need to be concerned about. We were doing some eventlet, a little bit of eventlet usage in the Manila client, which was not required, and it was removed. And then there was the Manila patches that have already been uploaded. A couple of them are low-hanging fruits. We had an SSH pool utility. We still have that, and it's used by a lot of drivers, and it's to do some connection pooling, so that we could be a little more efficient, quicker, because I mean, when multiple threads are operating and SSHing into external storage systems, they would you'd probably want to reuse an SSH connection for expediency. And so that's what the first patch is about, and it replaces the usage of Eventlet with threading. And it's native threading, so you can see there are some implementations matching what the Eventlet backend was doing for us. And I have not really tested it with any specific driver, but it's been unit tested, and it's also got some CIs reporting on it, including the ZFS on Linux CI. Um, and then there was the driver usage. I think most of the time they were just mocking. Sorry, they were just using Eventlet's green thread sleep routine, and that's not really required. Technically, we could be using time.sleep, and that's getting monkey patched anyway when you're using Eventlet. And so that's what's getting replaced in this. So that's a simple patch too. But the bigger ones, what's going on? So that's where I think Daniel's work is going to help us here. Uh, One is there's already work in Oslo service that Daniel has done along with other folks on Oslo. So what they've done is they've introduced a new backend for Oslo service, and that uses native threading. And it provides all of the routines that and the Oslo service requires. So technically, if we were using many small helpers from Oslo service when we were setting up our own processes, and those things are available with this new backend, and that's a thing that I'm currently experimenting with and trying to get to replace the scheduler, the data manager, and I had not gotten to the share service yet. And this is where I think Eric Eric Harney was investigating this for Cinder volume, and he said, well, Manila must have the same problem, and he was telling me about the issues that he was going down with. I don't think I can articulate it as well as Eric. If you want to, Eric, you can tell us the problems that are there, and then we can discuss the issues that Daniel can fix for us.
Sure. Yeah, the main thing we ran into with Cinder Volume, and I mentioned Manila Share has the same architecture as Cinder Volume, I think. So the way that we spin up multiple backends in Cinder Volume is by launching multiple Oslo services. And so when using the threading backend with Oslo service and the code as it existed in Cinder Volume, that happens after we've already initialized a bunch of SQL Alchemy objects and other things, and you end up with SQL Alchemy objects getting shared across threads, which does not work at all. So what you get is the first backend spins up and it works, and then the second one basically fails as soon as you try to start it and do anything with it. So if I understand these changes in Oslo service that are the new changes from Daniel, I think this has given us a different way to spin up Oslo services with the threading backend, with a different model, right, where we're not sharing the same objects between everything.
Yes, exactly. Because right now we use with the new backend, we use fork and so on from Unix. So yeah, you share the same stuff, but now we will use multiprocessing instance from Python, from the Python core library with Spawn. And so the difference is we will not share, we will share nothing. So all the services we will start a Python interpreter, like, so we will fix the deadlocks issues and so on.
So does that require changing anything from the Cinder Manila side to consume this, or is it just
not so right now I have already started the work on the new model, so I have 2 patches right now and waiting for some review on that, and I continue to now do the implementation. So normally you will not have a big change, maybe only like one attribute or one option, like to say you want to use that model instead of the other one.
okay? Yeah.
So, if I understand it correctly, these patches are starting the work, but they're not complete yet, right?
I have 2 patch is like complete, but I need to do 2 more patches. I think that will be like all the work will be finishing, like it depends also more on about the speed of the code review, but like I hope we will have in a merge of all the work in like 3 weeks, more or less.
Yeah, makes sense. Because I was actually looking through to see, I mean, if when we do use the process launcher, perhaps that's where we should be passing something new in order
Exactly.
to let you know. Okay,
That will be come to the other one. Yeah.
okay, makes sense.
I will put also all the Jira. So we have like, sorry for that, we use Jira right now, but it's public link, so you can see the details of the issues. But I will put all the Jira. We have like 9 Jira, but only the 4 first one is for the implementation. The rest is like add like some CI and so on. But so
Daniel, are you aware of anybody else, any other thing requiring this in OpenStack?
yeah, a lot of team right now.
Oh,
So
I see. Okay.
at least Mani, yeah. So you, Cinder, and I think Network, if I remember correctly.
Interesting. Thank you. And I think part of the other thing that I was discussing with Eric was supporting Eventlet alongside, um, not supporting Eventlet, right? Like, so when we use the work that Daniel's doing with Oslo Service,
Yeah,
we could make it the default, but the approach that other teams are taking is that they continue to use the Eventlet backend as the default, and
yeah,
providing a different way to invoke this new backend. And they're doing that with, I mean, Nova is trying to do that with environment variables, and I think Glance discussed doing that with a new module that
okay.
they could import, like a library, a shim. Um, yeah, so there's some prior art and some other discussions. I don't know what, Eric, you're thinking about that for Cinder.
Well, I think we haven't really decided what we want to do there as a team for Cinder. My patches that I have up currently actually attempt to do it with a config option in the Cinder config, which is code-wise pretty messy to implement, but it seems like it works, because you have to load up the configuration early enough to do the eventlet patching, which means you really have to jumble around when the conf file is read compared to when it would normally be read currently to be able to do that. I don't really know though. I kind of liked the environment variable approach idea. I think a lot of it is going to depend on what we really want at the end of the G cycle. But I think this is going to be a discussion soon in the Cinder community to kind of decide what makes sense there. I wanted it to be switchable for now, just for ability to test it and turn it on and off in different gate jobs and stuff, but I'm not too sure where we're going to go apart.
Yeah, me neither. I haven't put in as much thought to it. But yeah, the other thing that I haven't put in a lot of thought into is the whiskey server changes. And this one, I think Oslo's told us that there will be no whiskey server replacement that will be there in Oslo itself. So there's no compat mode for not using Eventlet. So basically, try to deprecate any Eventlet-based whiskey service dependencies in specific code. Um, and for this, I think a long time ago we started supporting external whiskey servers, and I think we're testing with whiskey in the OpenStack gate, and I mean there's folks in the wild that use Apache, and things have been working like that for a while. And the biggest advantage over there was, I think, SSL termination was happening in these external services, and they had a lot more bells and whistles, a lot more knobs to control a lot of the web traffic kind of thing. And that's and all of that goodness was not there even anyway in the eventlet driven server. So it's a good thing, I think. So I feel like we could go ahead, deprecate it in Manila, and I think that's what other projects will end up doing as well. And I also see patterns where folks are supporting. I mean, there's default configuration for something like GUnicorn or uWhiskey that's being shipped inside the project itself. So that'll help you set up these external whiskey servers. And that's a good approach, I think, to take. I'm not sure if there's anything more that you guys are considering elsewhere. Um, Eric, Daniel, anybody? Has this come up in the Cinder team, for instance?
I don't think so, but I haven't spent a ton of time on the API service part yet.
Yeah, and has there been any recommendation from the Oslo folks, Daniel, on this?
Sorry, can you say again the question? I was a bit
Yeah, no.
focused
So
on something.
right now we are using the Oslo service, Whiskey service.
Yeah, yeah,
And it's one of the things we support, along with, of course,
yes,
configuring this with external web servers for the API service in Manila.
exactly.
So, and I've heard that you're not implementing any Whiskey service as a
No,
replacement, right?
now we will not implement it. So now it's all user need to implement the web
Right.
server.
So have folks like discussed with you what's a better alternative, uh, and what's a good approach to take?
Not yet,
Okay.
but I think micro whiskey is a good approach, but I have not discussed with other team about it.
Yeah. Okay. I'll keep the pulse on this. I think the most important changes are coming to the other Oslo service bits. So the whiskey
Yeah.
server stuff might be something that we discuss again in the future.
Yes, probably.
Thank you. Yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to recap and wanted to catch up. So thank you for joining this session. And
Thanks.
I don't have anything else. Anybody here has any questions? or concerns? I guess the big thing would be timeline, and the timeline that we are shooting for is so that we could, I mean, we could have an eventlet alternative for the Oslo service bits, which is scheduler, the data manager, the share manager, are going to be able to work without eventlet in the Gazpacho release. That's the hope. Um,
Yep.
and it's not that we will remove support for eventlet. That there's no plan for that yet. I'll probably see that during the implementation, and how you'd be able to switch from the eventlet mode to the non-eventlet mode is also TBD. So I'll keep you folks posted on that as this goes, and of course I'll discuss it on the OpenStack, the Manila channel or the Manila meetings and such when we come up with those concerns. We'll try and more or less align with what the other project teams are doing, so it's not like a special canary. Um, but yeah, that's the gist of it. As in terms of the eventual sunsetting timelines, I think right now we've pushed it to I. That's when we expect OpenStack to be rid of importing Eventlet at all. And there's some project teams that are going to switch the defaults in this cycle, and some others that want to switch it in the next cycle. That's the off cycle, which is the non-slurp release, and so that you can actually upgrade, have one cycle of proper testing with it. But of course, any project that's actually adding support for this is testing it constantly in the CI, and that's going to be the same that we'll do with Manila. All right. So if there's nothing else, I think we're back to you, Carlos.
Awesome.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Damani and Eric, for joining. And thanks,
Thank you.
Gautam, for bringing this up and having the recap. If there are no further questions, we had a scheduled break of 5 minutes until we get back for the dropping the V1 API discussion and the JSON schema validation. So yeah, let's catch a 5-minute break, and then we'll be back for the next two discussions.
Thanks. See you.